the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 59, recorded Friday, September 21st, 2012. Lime green Leisuresuit.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. It's time for AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audio-visual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. Thank you so much for joining us. With us this week is George Tucker. He is the engineering coordinator for World Stage in New York, New York. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much.
Don't correct me. It's probably like some suburb of New York. So, also with us is Dawn Meade. She is from Net-AV. How are you, ma'am?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Also is Matt D. Scott from Omega Audio Video. He usually lives in Canada, but somebody gave him a passport, and he's in Michigan today.
Yeah, I like my passport.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Also, last but not least, Mr. Chris Tatton, who has been here before, but it's been a long time. He is the senior programmer for HB Communications. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thank you.
This week we're going to talk about Celebrity coming out with a fiber HDMI cable, which I think is interesting. It's just, it's a little expensive. Kramer and Commercial Integrator are getting together for a webinar on the analog sunset, and Dawn and I get to goo goo and gaga over the OLED screens. But first, one of our guys that we've had on for quite a number of different shows is Brad Grimes. Brad is writes for Infocom International under their All Voices blogs, and he wrote an interesting piece this week called "Is Demand for Pro AV on the Uptick?" So he goes on to go, AV pros do well to remember this number, 65.7. You gotta love that number. What it basically means is that's how buyers of AV systems rate their future demand for said systems. In other words, 65.7% think that they're going to need some. George, all of us here live and breathe inside the Pro AV area. Is this a good thing, and do you believe it?
Is it a good thing? Well, it's always a good thing to see an uptick, right? I mean, anything that says that future housing and consumer confidence and desire to have AV in their home is an uptick is a good thing for anybody, including this industry. I like the article says, though, I'd like to see what the next few surveys say.
Survey
My
says?
best Richard Dawson. Yes, exactly. Imitation. Yeah, see? Great minds do think alike.
And so did the third one, but go ahead.
But yeah, so, I mean, is it a harbinger of things to come? Maybe. And I wonder, though the survey doesn't go in depth here, I wonder if there's a way to drill down and say, is it because of the new offerings from, say, Control 4 and Savant and Elan and some other companies in which you're seeing that sort of somewhat homeowner installer type, where that crossover's happening, where there's more interest in this mass market options, or is it just because there's a desire? I'm not clear on that, but I would go to hazard a guess that it's because there's more outreach to the mass market.
Don, is George right? It's more mass market outreach from guys like Control 4, Savant, and I'm not trying to be disparaging, but the lower end market of residential getting into the Pro AV market.
I think that's possible. I think one of the other big things to consider is, we've been in a global recession for a number of years now, and everybody's been afraid to spend their money corporately. The government's been the only real steady market, and even that they've cut back on some government spending for a while there. And really, I've said this many times over the past several years, AV is where computers were back in the mid 80s. Everybody needs it. If you've already got it and you were an early adopter, it all needs replacing. And if you haven't already got it, you need to get on the stick because everybody's using it. VTC, digital signage, all of these areas are so key to business nowadays. And even with the recession, people afraid to spend their money, they're starting to realize, things may be turning around, but we really have to get this communication going. We really have to get this collaboration happening. And we really need to get this equipment purchased and installed. And, look, the things George mentioned, they play a part, of course. But I just think it's a case of the money holders are starting to loosen those purse strings a little bit due to sheer need. They can't put it off any longer. They can't, sit around the 200 ANSI lumen projector that they've had in their room for, 10 years now. They need to get up with the current technology in a lot of corporations and a lot of industries. And so they're finally starting to spend.
Matt, your business kind of straddles a couple different ones. One is house of worship. The other is residential. So is this something that you're also seeing as well, where, just like Dawn said, the local church has been holding on to a 200 ANSI lumens projector for the last 10 or 12 years, and they're like, all right, we've got to make this happen?
Yeah, it really is. It's hitting that point where, with the recession that we've had, as Don said, it's something where people have held off for so long, and they were able to get away with it. We're now getting to that point where, especially in a lot of the house of worship projects and churches that we work with, they're starting to realize that they, just as she said, they have to update. They can't just sit back and go, oh, I can get another 2 years out of this. They're to that point where everything is starting to die, everything is starting to fade, and more importantly, it's not allowing them to get the look and the aesthetic that they're wanting within their facilities. So the church that I'm actually at a conference at right now with, they just recently updated 2 of their projectors and are looking at doing 2 more of their main ones to get functional, or back to functionality and back to cutting edge and working, like just basic function. So yeah, I think he's right on his article. I think he's right on point. There are a ton of reasons for it, but I think we kind of covered the main ones. Just that people are expecting to see this, whether it's in their house or their church or even their offices. They're expecting to see technology. We've got iPads and iPhones and Android devices all over the place. It's no longer acceptable for you to be in an office that doesn't have some form of tech, let alone a church. It doesn't fit with our lifestyles anymore.
Chris, you guys, HB Communications, that you guys do a lot of control. That's actually what you do, is you're a senior programmer. And is this going to cut into your business where, whether that's Savant or Control4 or any other kind of point-and-click GUI-like, control system, is that going to cut into your guys' deal where, for, $300 or $300, I can have a basic, control system, whether or not it's, it's Crestron or AMX, that's beside the point.
I don't think it's really going to cut into that side of the business so much. Most of what we do is larger systems that I don't think could really necessarily be serviced by the smaller control system companies. You're going to be able to get the basics down, but you're not going to be able to get that custom experience, and you're not going to be able to control necessarily anything you want to the way you want to, short of having knowledge to do some of the advanced functionality in those control systems. I don't think it's going to cut into it that much. That said, I do agree with what Dawn was saying about the economic recession having a substantial impact on prior purchasing, and how it's one of those things that is just time that people need to upgrade. Equipment is failing. It only lasts for so long. And before the economic recession, there wasn't really a large digital market for integrated systems. I mean, there was digital, but it was SDI. If you think about it, Crestron's DM is 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And we're in 2012, so when the recession started in 2008, that didn't exist. There wasn't a lot of HDMI switching, and now it's time to upgrade. You just can't wait any longer.
No, you can't, and especially with the whole analog sunset and stuff like that. So yeah, you're right. We'll get to that in a second. From BBC, which is one of my favorite channels because Doctor Who and all that jazz. Europe has hit old internet address limits. There are no more IPv6. Everybody running for the hills. That's not entirely true. But actually, it's to the point where organizations can have one more application for a lot of IPv4 addresses. They'll get about 1,000 of them. And once that's gone, it's gone. Then you're moving to IPv6, right? And just a backstory, back in the 70s when they came out with this thing, they ended up giving out 4.3 billion, with a B, IP addresses that were allowed by IPv4. And obviously in the 70s, everybody said that was enough. Of course, in the 70s, everybody thought the polyester was cool too. So,
Polyester's not cool?
No, it's not.
256K should be enough for anybody.
You know what? There's a
Still is in Canada?
There's a picture of me in a lime green leisure suit that one day I may show you guys. So I was 3.
That's hot.
I have no claim to this. This was all my parents dressing me up like this. But yeah, lime green.
Okay, were you wearing white clogs too?
Yes, actually, I was.
Did it have like the ruffled jacket?
It was a lime green suit, and the shirt was one of those flower ones. And actually, my mother made these. One was lime green, and one was like yellow. So it was they were matching. And my father had a matching one. So
wow,
yeah, and he was in his 20s at the time, so he has no excuse. So anyhow, now that we've gone down that rabbit trail,
your mother made it. That was his excuse.
Well, yeah, that is.
Wanted
that
to
was
eat.
That's the excuse. Here, honey.
Yes, honey, I love it.
I love it.
This
it's
is
awesome.
my favorite color.
All right,
Put it
so
on for you.
Dawn, here's something we've dealt with for I don't know, a year or so. You start looking at Windows 8 has IPv6 stuff built into it. A lot of the stuff that we put on networks right now, whether that is a switch, a control system, or a DSP, they're going to have an internet connection. Is this going to affect the U.S., do you think? Is this going to have a heavier impact more quickly because of the number of people in the U.S. or the number of devices, or is it just going to be we're going to be on the same trail as Europe? Just it's over here.
I mean, it's obviously going to have a pretty quick effect here, even more so than Europe, because I'm not familiar with Europe's appliance market, but who would have thought, even as recently as the 90s, that we would have refrigerators with IP addresses and washing machines that send you emails when your laundry's done. I mean, like it's just absurd. In a good way, but in a very George Jetson kind of way, how many things are connected and are smart devices, and the whole smart home thing. I mean, that's the theme of this year's InfoComm 100: is what on earth is going on with the smart buildings and everything having IP addresses and talking to our systems. We wouldn't have imagined such a thing. So I think it is gonna, if we aren't already at the limit, we're gonna be there really quickly. I'm surprised actually that Europe got there before us, to be honest. Because we're Americans, darn it. We want features, and we want our dog's electric dog door to talk to our email. We're just crazy like that. It's just the kind of stupid thing that we adore. So I'm surprised we haven't already run out.
Yeah, that is true. That's true. Chris, is this something being in the control system something you're going to have to deal with sooner rather than later? Because, like Dawn said, we're Americans. We want everything connected.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's going to be something that we're going to have to address very, very soon. Control systems are, generally speaking, all on the network these days. And the older ones don't have IPv6 support. The newer ones are coming out with IPv6 support. But
not to interrupt you, define for me old versus new. Like, are we talking a year or two old or 5 years ago?
We're talking, like, I know for, Crestron 3 series processors, I believe, have IPv6 support, but the 2 series does not.
Period.
Wow.
Okay.
Hey, that's more of that good market coming up on people buying stuff.
Well,
we're going to run out of IP addresses. They have to replace it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's good. I've long said that I cannot wait for IPv6. I can't wait for the U.S. to run out of IPv4 addresses and to just get the pain over and done with, because it's going to be painful regardless, and there's no putting it off. It's just going to happen.
George, Chris says, let's just have the pain now and get it over with. The U.S. is not known for, how should I put this diplomatically, doing things painlessly. Let's look back a few years to the DTV conversion, shall we?
Oh, that was painless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hardly felt a thing.
No, nothing at all. I noticed nothing.
It's just a flesh wound.
Oh, wow.
How often does that have to be used before it becomes retired?
Never.
Well, it's been used for the last 40 years, so we're still
Never.
pretty good. It's Monty Python. Come on.
I'm not dead yet.
I'm not.
Well, I gotta
dead. I'm feeling better.
Come back and fight.
I'm going to go take a walk now.
The business I want to be in actually is selling the IPv4 to IPv6 adapter switches.
Huh?
I don't know if it's out there yet, but that's the business I want to be in. I'm sure it has a lot to do with you guys selling more AV gear and newer and creditor stuff, but I want to be in that, Geffen or whoever it is market of saying, simply put it in between your IP ISP and your home network, and you've got a switch. Now there's the money, people. You know what part of this is, though? We're just messy. I mean, seriously, think about it. Half of this could have probably been delayed for a little bit longer. Yes, it would inevitably would have happened. If we just were a little bit neater with our IP addressing, not leaving stuff always on, not having to have 15 mobile devices going all at the same time. I mean, really.
Oh, you
need to do this? I mean, I feel like it's with my kids. I have a 5 and 7-year-old going, go clean up your room. Just organize a little bit, and you'll be able to find that book that you wanted so desperately.
Now you sound like a socialist, George. Good Lord.
Socialist?
Well,
I
another
don't
know.
Is
that
I couldn't think of a good one.
In the beginning of the IPv4 internet, they had no idea that there would be so many devices where, I believe they handed out an entire /8 to IBM at one point, and they still have all of those addresses.
Yeah.
Which is, and they're probably using a good portion of them, but there's probably at least half of them that are unused, but nobody can do anything with them.
Because they're IBMs. All right, Mr. Scott, Mr. Canada, you guys won't have to deal with this for at least another 20 years.
We're very behind.
But seriously, in all seriousness, is this something that churches have to deal with this too? And is this something that, regardless whether it's Lustron or Crestron or AMX or Extron, do you think we as an industry are going to be able to roll with this punch and kind of, no big deal?
I think the guys that'll be prepared for it will be able to roll with it effectively, especially the guys who understand it. I think one of the major issues that our industry always runs into, and we've talked about this many times on the show, is that convergence idea of AV and IP working together, IT working together. I think this is one of those things where the IT boys are way ahead of us on it. They've been preparing for this for 3, 4, 5 years even across the board, whereas a lot of the AV companies that don't, aren't as involved in the IP side of things, unlike Chris's company, who's used to this kind of stuff, they're gonna have a bit of a stumbling block, if you will, with this transition. So I think we'll get there, but again, it'll be the guys who are sitting back going, "Hold on, I got to change what to
who?
Hold on, go Wikipedia this for me." That type of response with the guys that are kind of coming at it from that approach. I think that's where we're going to see a lot of issues in the industry. Whereas, as I said, the guys who have a much greater IT background or have followed the lead of Infocom and CEDIA and all the other trade organizations that are pushing us as an industry to get more IT, knowledge. They're going to have a much better time with it.
Yeah, that's true. Just a general question. Is the generic one going to be now 192.168.1.1.1.1?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that'll be Cisco's,
Hey, dude, you know what? Cisco's not the only one that does that.
No, I know. But
there's a couple AV companies. I think Crestron's not, or Extron's not, but somebody else does. That's like their default.
Tons. Well, it's one of those things, I can walk on site and I don't even have to go into a server room as a rule and, can try 6 addresses and I'm going to find something.
Yeah.
So to see it switch over. If they, keep that up, that'll be great for guys like us. But, if we get into something that's funky, just for funky's sake, it could be entertaining.
I like how you put that. It'll be entertaining as I bang my head against a brick wall. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But again, where else are you going to have fun like this? Come on.
The dentist office? I don't know. All right, from BuzzFeed. Right now, most of what we deal with is touchscreens. And, there's a lot of us on this call that deal with control systems, and we like touchscreens. And if you got the new iPhone today, congratulations. You've got a touchscreen. I've got a touchscreen. Everybody has a touchscreen. But this...
Thank you, Oprah.
Yeah, you get a touchscreen. You get a touchscreen. I'll tell you a story later. I met her once. It's a long story. Anyhow, she what comes after the touchscreen is the title of the article, and basically the idea is this. The guy who wrote this is Russell Brandom. He says,
Russell Brand?
Huh?
Russell Brand?
Brandom.
Oh, Brandom.
As in random, only Brandom.
Gotcha.
Okay, there. We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, good.
Sorry. Go ahead.
His premise is this: the very next, Steve Jobs. One more thing, by the way, as we leap forward in technology, is going to be not touching it. I guess the best way to put it, and whether that's Connect or something else like it. He says, you're going to get to the point where we're not connecting, we're not touching it, but we're still controlling it. George, first of all, do you think this is accurate? Like our next thing really is going to be not touching it, but hovering over it as it were, or becoming the gesture, not to play on a show we did about a year ago where you said you were not a gesture, but where you're just, you're waving your hands around and controlling things that way. George?
I think, the article at the end pointed out one thing. Is like for macro stuff, large screen displays, large digital signage, or things like that, I think the gestures, the hand motion, non-touchscreen stuff will be your preeminent interface, definitely. I think, though, when you're starting to do smaller scale work, like they say, a spreadsheet or some kind of creative endeavor that requires very fine detail, you're still not going to do that because it's still not possible to get that kind of detail. And again, you're waving your arms all over the place. I can't stop saying I'm not a gesture. This just becomes this sort of, you're going to start flanding 747s inadvertently. It's
jeez. All right, Dawn, tell George he's wrong. He is a gesture, and he'll eventually be a gesture. He'll be the 90-year-old guy complaining that he's a gesture, but he'll be a gesture, right?
Probably eventually, yes. That's where we're going to go. But I just can't help but think of the logical end evolution of all of this. And I think of the movie Accepted. I don't know if anyone's seen that stupid little movie except for me, but I want to learn to blow things up with my mind. That's kind of like where we're going. We're just going to think about opening that web page, and then we're going to think about doing, that's after we start gesturing, then we get to the minute gestures. Somewhere in the article it was talking about, getting smaller gestures as opposed to the great big, symphony conducting gestures. Eventually that's what it's going to be. You're going to blink at something and it's going to, I Dream of Jeannie style, turn on, turn off, whatever.
Dun, 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 dun,
Do we all have to wear
dun,
those
dun,
silly little tops though? Because
yes,
I would look darn good in those tops.
You might just
Matt Scott.
I need a moment.
I want a picture of that and the lime green suit now.
You know what? You give me some time. We'll give Matt Scott some time. He's the one who's the Photoshop genius. Matt, is this the end game where we just kind of nod our head and everything opens up and what have you?
Well, I think we're going to see that to some degree. But again, it's one of those things where we still don't have, beyond smartphones, we have a very limited deployment and general populace acceptance of touchscreens. If you take the mobile market out of it, I'm trying to think, I can't think of anyone outside of, a few of our customers that actually have a touchscreen in their house anywhere for anything as soon as you take out the mobile. So, yeah, I think we'll get there eventually, but I think it'll be something that we're talking about because it's our industry and people will be playing with it. But I don't even think we'll see it in our lifetime, or my lifetime, not necessarily your lifetime, but definitely not even in mine, where you'll be, in the mall and pinching something to buy it, or checking it, or using some sort of weird gesture to do something. I don't know. I don't see it coming and advancing that fast. We'll get there and people will have it, but again, it'll be limited in the general acceptance and the general populace who will actually see that.
Chris, the youngest person on this call, said not in his lifetime. That would be Matt. But here's the thing. Aren't there, and I'm going to take exception to one of the things you said, Matt. I don't see an iPad or a tablet as a mobile. I know that that's the way a lot of websites see them, but to me, that is a nice hybrid between a computer and a mobile device.
Right. And I accept that. All I'm saying is, if we take out that quote unquote tablet space, touchscreens are very, very limited.
Okay.
As soon as you get out of the mobile products, like, how many of us, even the five of us on this call, how many have a touchscreen in their house beyond a mobile device? Like, I have one in my house.
One.
All right, so we got 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And that's more where I'm going.
Okay. Yeah. I don't have one. Chris, though, is this, where do you see this going? I mean, because I can see both sides of this, where, all kidding aside, between Dawn's, nodding your head and something happening and Mr. Scott saying it's not going to happen for a while. I can see both sides of this, to where, maybe not in my lifetime, but certainly in my kids' or my grandkids' lifetime, where, you will eventually become some sort of gesture.
Well, I have to say that I certainly like Dawn's idea for the end game of thought control. I can't wait to see that. But I really don't know what comes directly after touch. I really don't think that gestures are going to be able to do enough to support everything that you might possibly want to do with a device. As devices do more and more, there's going to have to be some way to interact with them and issue specific commands. And I think at some point you're going to start splitting hairs on what this gesture means versus what this gesture means, and you're going to end up with unintended, results. I think that there's going to be multiple kinds of input. I think the voice control is going to have a really big role in the future for controlling things.
You think? I mean, how do you get around? I don't know. My kids yelling in the background as I'm trying to change the channel or what have you.
Well, that's voice recognition filtering, isn't it? I mean, know your master. We're back to the RCA symbol, aren't we?
Well, yeah, that's true.
Voice of your master.
I mean, I think that, exactly. There'll be improvements in technology that allow them to recognize your voice over your kid's voice. Hopefully, you'll be closer to the microphone than they will be.
Hopefully.
Oh, yes, but your kid is not old enough for you to realize that. Let me tell you, son, they have a remarkable way of out-shouting you no matter what. They have a frequency range that you and I do not.
Oh, I know.
Those old TVs that used to use the Zenith, the Space Echo thing, or not Space Echo, the Space Remote, that had the 2 pieces of metal? Yeah, they can turn those things on and off. Trust me. Wow. I mean, here's something I was just thinking of as I was listening to everybody talk. Is like, the gesture thing might work, but it really will be sort of like the mosquito ringtone, a young person's game, because as you get older, of course, your motor skills and your accuracy with those become less and less prodigious, as it were. They diminish over time, where those kind of things might become a young person's thing, and you really will sector out sort of an age group that may not be able to manage this accommodation, this new gesture things that they grow up with. And so I think you're right. The voice command thing is probably your best bet, alongside with certain gestures that become universal but aren't too finite for everyday use. Maybe for some gaming or some specific use, but really you will age out a whole sector. I mean, it'll be not Blade Runner. What was the movie where you got 30 years old, you got killed?
Oh wow. I have no idea.
Yeah.
In Time.
Oh, Logan's Run.
Logan's Run.
Okay.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
We have
Don,
a
get
winner.
a cigar. But yeah, I mean, although I have to tell you, Chris, you know what happens after touch. You have one running around.
Yeah, it gets broken.
No, you have a little rugrat. Hello, is this thing on? Work with me, people. It's not my first night in the room.
All right, you're listening to AV Week, the home of Shecky Green's School of Comedy, with our headmaster, George Tucker, Dawn Meade, Matt Scott, and Chris Tatton. Dawn sent me something that just kind of made my day the other day, so her and I can talk about this, and I don't care what you guys do for the next couple minutes. From CNET.
Who's up for a pinochle?
Do what? Yeah, go play pinochle. The story is this: it's 4K versus OLED, and Dawn and I are of one mind on this one. We've long awaited OLED, but then there's 4K, and the question is this: I mean, which one really is, I guess, better? Is the best way to put it. Dawn, which one's better, OLED or 4K?
Well, to be fair, the articles, which one is more drool-worthy?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't use the terminology.
And absolutely, for me, OLED is definitely more drool-worthy. And of the 800-some people that voted on their little poll on the article, 56% agree with me. OLED is the sexier technology coming out here.
Because you're smart that way.
That's right. Well, I mean, it's a case of 4K is I'm not going to go there. 4K is great for giant screens, for stadiums and things like that. But the article even says there's no content yet. They're going to be coming out with 4K cameras and 4K content, but it isn't there yet. OLED right now would give us thinner monitors, lighter weight monitors, more energy efficient monitors, and just incredible contrast ratios that will blow your mind when you look at the image. So, that's where it's at. Plus, I still want the bendy screen. OLED can do that at some point.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I agree with you. The OLED is just darn sexy. I mean, the colors itself. It will take an HD signal and make it look, in my opinion, if I can use this phrase, more HD, if that makes sense, or more realistic. I don't have a really good another word for it because it does. It just looks deeper. The colors are more vibrant. The picture itself looks more alive. Chris, which one is more drool-worthy to you, the 4K or the OLED?
Well, I'm going to take a different standpoint and say that 4K is not new technology.
Okay.
Because all the 4K displays are all based off existing technology. They're just higher resolution. All the 4K displays, they're edge-lit LCDs.
Okay.
So they're just a couple more pixels slammed into a larger...
give them a little more credit than that. They're more than just a couple more pixels.
Well, okay, fine. So Sony is releasing an 84-inch 4K display, right? So what did they do? They took 4 42-inch 1080p displays and pretty much slammed them together without a bezel.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah,
well,
okay, yeah.
Yeah, but once you... Hold on.
And it costs 4 times the price, at least.
Once you get into the actual film side of things and the cameras required to produce the content, that's where you see the resolution jump. So yes, I buy what you're saying with the 4 screens thrown together, but it's, to me, the sexiness factor is not the 84-inch that they brought, or even LG's 80-inch or whatever size it is. It's the resolution bump that we're getting with the 4K Red cameras and the 4K Sony cameras, and what they're able to record and grab resolution size in that raw format. How it's displayed on those 2 models of screens, really, it's cool because people see it and they go, oh, I could put this in my house. But, again, as we all know, that Sony is edge-lit, it's LCD. It's cool because it's got 4K resolution, but that's the only thing cool about it. But now that we're actually getting into the acquisition, the start-to-finish process of producing 4K content, that's where it gets super cool.
Okay.
But again, you got to be a video junkie like myself to fully get down.
George, help me out here, man. I mean,
Acceptance is the first step, Matt. Acceptance is the first step.
Exactly. See, I know it.
Which one is? I can't even say it anymore. Which one is more drool worthy? Is it 4K, regardless of the fact that there is no content, or like Chris said, it's basically the same technology, just 4 times as much, or is it OLED?
I predicted this is the year of OLED back on our end of year show. So
you did, yes.
OLED, I did indeed, and you scolded me royally. But
I didn't scold you. I questioned it. That was it.
Yeah, okay. Hurt me, baby. I'm a Rubbermaid.
It's just that we've had our hopes up for OLED for so many years.
Yes.
I first heard about it 10 years ago. And every year, here it comes. No, they didn't give it to us this year. And it's going to be this year. No, they didn't get, after a while, you just kind of roll over and give up hope.
Yeah. It's like being a Cubs fan. I say firmly ensconced in St. Louis. So sorry, they're in town this week.
I am hopeful for OLED because I want those white of whites and those black of blacks. I want it to be able to have this thing fade into the background and just have the image. I kind of feel like that, Ed. Like, I don't watch much TV, but when I do, I want it to be dramatic and I want it to be impressive. And for me, the 4K just doesn't have that zippy wow factor comparatively.
See, and that's where I just can't wait for a OLED screen that's capable of producing or reproducing 4K shot footage. Right?
Okay, yeah.
That's when it'll be, because from a screen technology, 4K nobody really cares about. The only, and I know you're going to hate me for saying this, Tim, but the only real cool thing about a 4K display technology at this point, again, because there really is so limited content, is the fact that you could actually watch 3D in 1080p.
Geez.
No, I know where you stand on that. That's the only reason you're seeing 4K projectors from Christie popping up in movie theaters around the country. It's so that they can actually show you whatever movie you're going to see this weekend in 3D in an actual 1080p resolution. So from the screen side, the OLED is a much cooler technology and much more beneficial down the road. But again, it's as far as I'm concerned, you can't compare the two screens to one another. It's no comparison. The OLED always wins. But when you get into the actual, what it'll display, when you tie those two together, it's going to blow everything out of the water.
Oh, yeah. I mean, combining the two technologies.
Oh, my gosh.
That's the epitome until we have 8K.
Jeez, stop it.
Thanks, Chris.
Stop it. And you know what I'm really waiting for? Hang on. Is 16K. Because at 16K, I can watch 4D.
I can't wait till I get 16K on my iPhone 24.
Jeez, stop it.
Dude, I'm going to love it. I'm going to buy bigger pants.
No, you're going to be so old, you're not going to care at that point. So.
Retinal implants. That's all I'm waiting for.
From Engadget. This is something we've talked a lot about content delivery systems and content on this show, simply because a lot of what we do, both in the pro and the resi market, is affected by this. Whether that's TiVo or Dish Network or DirecTV and all the other providers of content. Something came out this week. Originally, it was in the New York Times, and Engadget picked it up. It's about Fox, and Fox is, and from my standpoint, Fox has not exactly been they couldn't be accused of being forward thinking, let's say, when it comes to their content. However, I will have to give it to them. I have to give it to them this time. According to the New York Times, Fox is about to up the ante when it comes to downloadable and online video. They're making available ultraviolet and actually other formats as well. Copies for sale 3 weeks ahead of the release of Blu-ray, DVD, or on-demand rental. Now, let me say that again, maybe a little bit more eloquently. Basically, you're going to be able to download the video from Fox, any movie, not any movie, but a lot of movies released by Fox. You're going to be able to download those movies before you can video on demand them, or you can physically purchase them. George, is this just kind of the next step, and is this where we're going to end up where love him or hate him, the head of Netflix said by 2020 we're going to be out of the DVD rental business? Is this where we're all headed, where, Blu-ray might be dead or at least, on its way out already, which is weird?
I can certainly hope so. I've never cottoned on to the Blu-ray revolution, as it were, because they lost me at competing formats. I'm sorry. So I'm hopeful that that's what it is, and you might actually get me to watch more TV if I could download the stuff that I don't go to the movie theaters to watch. So there.
Yeah. Matt, is this something where you're looking forward to? I'm not. I agree with you. So I'm. And I hesitate asking you this, and I'm not making fun of you in any way, shape, or form.
No, it's Canada.
It's Canada. And it sucks. I feel for you. I mean,
I saw the delicious link and I went, crap. They're just trying to break my heart again.
No, I'm not. I'm not poking fun at the fact that I don't know.
Here's my only issue with this, and I've spoken about this many times on the show. As someone who does do a fair amount of resi, I love the Blu-ray format because it's the closest thing to watching something in a theater that you're ever going to get at home. The resolution levels, the audio signals, everything is fabulous. It really is that good. I don't understand how George doesn't get it, but whatever. Maybe because I barely remember the format wars, let alone
be quiet. Continue.
Wow. Yeah. Anyways,
many lives were lost, son. You should remember.
I know.
I still have my beta. Never mind. Okay.
The beta bayonets.
Yes.
Nice. What my concern is we're still not to a point, especially in Canada, where you can download something and get full resolution, full HD, full audio bit rates. We're not seeing that. It's not coming across the networks. For example, the city I'm in right now doesn't have the backbone from AT&T or Comcast or whoever's up here to accurately provide that, bandwidth required to do that, let alone if the content providers were actually selling that. Even the stuff, we're downloading from Amazon or Apple TV or iTunes is not true. It's not Blu-ray quality. It's DVD quality and sometimes HD quality, but it's not Blu-ray quality. And that's my concern is that, as I said, I'm a big lover of Blu-rays. I'm a big lover of, if I'm going to sit down and watch a movie and spend money to watch it, I want to watch it in the highest possible resolution I can. So when I'm at home and I'm watching, or trying to flip through the Rogers box at home to download and stream something from my local cable provider, I can't do it. You could ask my wife. I get frustrated because I sit there and I'm watching, HD, and they're charging $8, $9 a movie, and I'm going, that's not HD. That's 720 with a highly compressed audio channel. No, that is not HD. Don't tell me that's, I know it's technically HD, but don't tell me that's HD and that I got to pay this much to watch something that's going to pixelate like crap on my plasma.
Okay, I mean, and I'll give you that. Dawn, is this? I mean,
I'm walking off my soapbox.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I don't. Here's the thing. I feel bad for you because it is Canada, but Dawn's not in Canada, so we'll ask her.
You know what? I'm going to climb back on Matt's soapbox.
Do it. Okay. Come on.
In a slightly different take, and that's granted, maybe it's because I'm a woman and we hold the checkbook or whatever, but I am too cheap to pay $20, $30. They were saying last year they had a premium video on demand rental pilot that was $30, and previous releases using this download system were $20. Now it's down to $15 to download it. Man, I'm lucky if I pay $3 or $4 for my Amazon downloads to my Kindle. I mean, I cannot see paying that much for some pixels. I know there's all kinds of cost of making the movies and blah, blah, blah involved, and front end and back end deals and all that sort of thing. But if I'm paying $15, I want a damn disc to hold in my hand and put on my shelf. You know what I mean? I just, and I know the discs only cost a dime or whatever to reproduce. Even then, you're still getting a physical something. If my computer crashes and I lose a file, I lost that file that I paid $30 for. I will admit I've paid money to Amazon to download some things to my Kindle, but again, it was usually stuff on sale, and I paid very little for it. And even then, it really chapped my tuchus to, I want the physical thing if I'm buying it, or I want the full experience of being in a theater with the junk food and the whole, ambiance. I either want an experience or a product. I don't want to just sit and look at the computer and pay a bunch of money.
Don, let me ask you a question. Would it make you feel better if it was a Steam or a Valve-like experience with, if you don't know what Valve or Steam is, it's an online service that holds basically the rights to video games, and they have a piece of software that you download, and when you get a new computer, you just simply download the games you've already purchased. Would it make you feel better if there was a system like that, where you wouldn't necessarily lose the file, you would always have that there?
Maybe. But even then, I'm relying on somebody else's storage.
Sure.
As long as, and how cross-platform is that? If I have a Kindle now, but I get an iPad later or whatever, it's sort of similar to the iTunes model. I never liked the iTunes model because you're buying music, you're paying real money for music that you don't own, you're only licensing, and you really can only use it on your iPod. And if you get a Zune or a regular computer or whatever, it's problematic. You have to go to hacking to get the stupid thing. I just have issues with the whole model, and
You said Zune, and Matt's lost it. Just for the
I
record.
know, but you know what I mean. Like somebody's cheapy little MP3 player for your kid. You're not going to buy them a however much iPod.
Dawn, sister. Dawn, believe in the cloud. Believe.
Yeah, believe.
Hallelujah, the cloud.
I believe in the cloud. I use the cloud, but there are limits.
I've got to agree with Don though on the one point of my issue with a lot of this stuff that I didn't address. Is that you don't own most of it when you download it. When I pay my cable company $9 to watch a high def movie, I get it for 24 hours. I used to be able to go to Best Buy, or I'm sorry, not Best Buy, but Blockbuster, and buy a previously viewed Blu-ray for $9 and watch it as many times as I want. I've got a gigantic iTunes library, 90% of which I own. But the stuff that I buy from iTunes, I don't own, and that drives me insane. That I don't own that content, even though I've paid for it.
Right.
Chris, do you want or need or desire to own that physical copy, or are you okay with just downloading it and owning the digital version of it?
Well, I haven't bought an actual physical disc in I don't know how long. I want to say it's at least 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
I don't necessarily feel that I don't watch a ton of movies. I don't necessarily feel the need to own a disc necessarily, because I don't necessarily feel the need to watch that movie again and again and again for maybe once the little boy starts watching stuff on TV, I'll need to get a disc for children's shows, but I don't feel the need for movies. But the one thing that I was thinking about while reading this article is, what problem does this solve for the end user? And that's really what it's going to boil down to, I think, because this is a solution. This is a solution looking for a problem.
Well, the only thing it does is
I don't know if that's true though.
Well,
you know what it solves? It solves me not having to go out and get a disc. I don't want to go out and get a disc. I don't want to go to Best Buy.
No.
I don't want to go to Box. Leave me alone.
That's not what this is doing. This isn't talking about we're gonna you don't have to go out and get a disc. This isn't talking about we're gonna start streaming movies now. This is talking about we're gonna start streaming movies earlier.
It's not even streaming though. It is a download. So it is that,
or
and
download.
it gives it to you earlier. If you're one of those type of people, and there are those who like to go see stuff first or like to have the experience first, some of those people will go to the movie theater and see the movies. Right? This summer you would have gone to see Batman
theater and see the movies.
Yeah. But there might be those of us who have gotten to such an age that, I don't know, 40-ish, and one or two kids, where it's going to cost you $50 to go to the movie, but you still would like to see it as soon as possible. So we're stuck in that middle area there, where you're not going to go to the movies, but you'd like to see it as soon as possible. So there is a weird sweet spot. I don't know, dude.
We're not talking about months. We're talking about, what, 3 weeks?
3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really particularly care about seeing it earlier. It's about I can get it when I want it, when I need it, and I don't have to worry about it. And I don't have to go, where's the disc? Did the kids touch it? Did I have to have this physical disc? I don't want a credenza for that thing.
Yeah, and George,
And yes,
go ahead, George.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
No,
you make a good point. Don't let the kids touch it. That my 4-year-old seems to think that every DVD known to man is a frisbee.
Yep. No,
that's why they're round.
Be quiet, Matt.
There is that issue, like Matt, and Dawn said, is like I don't want to have to worry about who owns it. I want to physically own it, but those concepts of ownership really aren't there anymore. Yes, they theoretically could say, like the Kindle did or somebody did with 1984, and remove it from your Kindle because they didn't have rights to it. But they should have been selling it in the first place. I'm sorry, there was a licensing agreement that didn't happen. So you want your content, but the person you got it from couldn't offer it. You'll find another venue for them to offer it, or someone else will offer it. You will still retain some measure of ownership. It's just you don't need this physical disc that you can copy and give to your friends and then have others get it without paying for it.
Yeah, it's true. All right, guys, last but not least, a couple other stories real quickly. This came down just this morning. Kramer and Commercial Integrator are doing a webinar on October 10th about the analog sunset. And as they're putting it, the digital sunrise. I thought that was a nice touch. How to handle digital signal routing. Dawn, is a webinar, which, let's be honest here, is probably just, kind of like this, where somebody's going to get in front of a microphone and have a PowerPoint presentation and go through it. Not sure how much interaction there will be. Is this the best way to get up to speed on the analog sunset, or would it be better? Would you be better suited to go to maybe Kramer's, manufacturer's training, or Extron or Crestron's manufacturer's training?
I think it's an imperfect solution to a widespread problem.
Okay.
I mean, Kramer and Extron and whoever else, they've been offering these courses on analog sunset. I know this particular course taught by Melissa Dillman, who's my girl. I love her. She's awesome. But I've taken this course at one of the Infocom roundtables from Melissa. And I got a lot out of it. I think, though, there are enough little integrators and little people that touch on our industry that don't go to the roundtables or won't go to the manufacturer training or won't bother with, the other classes. They still need this info. As an industry as a whole, we need this info out there. So I think if they can offer it as a webinar that's even half as effective as the live course, it's better than nothing for a lot of these people. And, some bosses, they don't give them the time off to get their learning on, and with the webinars, if they record them when they do them live, and then you can go back and watch it. I may even take part in the webinar just to refresh my memory. I think it's a part of a comprehensive theme of getting out the info on the analog sunset. Is it the perfect solution? No, but it's better than nothing.
That's a good point. That's a good. By the way, we'll put a link to it on our website. Chris, is this, like Dawn said, better than nothing when it comes to getting up to speed on the analog sunset?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, obviously, anything is better than nothing. But even if you, I don't know how long the webinar lasts. I'm assuming maybe an hour. But if you learn a half a dozen things that you might not have known before, it was worth that hour long time. Digital is coming, analog is going away, and you just have to prepare yourself any way possible. And if like Dawn said, if you don't get the time to go out to training, you got to do something. Wikipedia is not going to tell you everything.
Oh, Wikipedia will tell me everything. Matt, is this? Sorry, Matt. This is on Wednesday, October 10th. Is this like everybody's saying? Is this better than nothing? Because apparently analog is going somewhere.
Yeah, it's dying.
No.
Did you not hear?
I didn't hear that.
Didn't you get the email?
I don't have.
I sent you an email.
I don't have email.
I sent you one.
Well.
It went from the carrier pigeon.
It got hung up in customs.
You know what? I'm in the middle of reading Game of Thrones, so
So
the
teletype machine
makes sense. There you go. Yeah, no, I think it's great. And again, not to trash Canada again, but because I usually, live and work in Canada, we don't get as many manufacturer events up in the Great White Tundra. So we use webinars a lot with myself and with some of our staff members to keep up to date and, learn about new products, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I love webinars. Again, do I think it's the best thing in the world? No, it's always better to sit in a class where you can, get face to face and, ask questions and do stuff like that. But if that's not available and this is, why not take advantage of it?
True. George, can you and I go to this webinar, please?
Sure.
Okay, good.
There you go. And I too concur with everybody else, although I have to say this has got to be the longest sunset ever.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
And we've had this argument before. Yes, analog is still valid, and I'm going to tell you it's going to still be valid 5-6 years from now as well in certain institutions. Your world being one of them.
Yes.
Education. They're still using cassettes, for goodness sakes.
And VHS tapes.
Yes. Yeah, I won't give him a pass on that one. Cassettes?
No. But yeah. we'll have a discussion
VHS.
later. But there are some professors who will they've literally told me, you will get this VHS tape from my cold dead hands. So yeah.
Film strips.
Oh,
hey,
good
look,
Lord.
We use film strip. Bing. Bing.
Separate audio track.
Yeah.
Turn the slide now. But we actually use them here. I mean, at World Stage, we use forms of webinar to teach across, because we have a company on the West Coast and a company on the East Coast, to transfer information, to do some training on certain devices. The rep is here. Hey, let's set up a streaming cam. Sometimes we can get HD, sometimes it's just not possible, but we try. And here's what he's doing. It's not nearly as good as the guys are getting their hands on it there, but at least you've had the exposure. And once you get the machine in your hand, I saw that on that training video. Yes, that kind of makes sense. Let me now go that way.
Okay.
And I think webinars work really well for this type of thing, where it's an information delivery device. You're not trying to configure a box where that hands-on time is really, really valuable. This is passing information pretty much in a one-way direction.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point was, and all of you guys said the same thing. It's better than nothing, but something like this, having that two-way communication really is preferable over just, a PowerPoint. But like you guys have all said, this is better than nothing if you don't have the opportunity to go to manufacturer's training. So, finally, this is just for George. The rest of you guys can go get a drink or something. From BBC, the
one for me.
special Monopoly edition celebrates Alan Turing's life. It's just kind of cool. So, George, who was Alan Turing?
Alan Turing is someone whom, if not for him, most of Europe would be speaking German, and Hawaii would probably be a Japanese property.
Yes.
Alan Turing was a mathematician and cyber expert who was at something called Bletchley Park, in which they were decoding the German Enigma machines, which is the super secret device that they would use to communicate over the airwaves with each other. Had rotors. It was very complicated. But he and a few others figured out how to make a machine that used valves and relays to quicken up the decoding that the human computers, these women who would go through all these codes and figure out maybe what rotor they used to finally get the message. So instead of 3 weeks of seeing the message, they could almost do it in real time. Yeah. And they were tracking things like during the Rommel across the desert, they were tracking his messages to Germany in real time. He was a very interesting man and who suffered terribly under the old laws of England for being gay.
Yeah.
But he is one of those people that without him, much of what we do today wouldn't be possible. And most of us wouldn't be in free lands.
That's true.
In my estimation, it really comes down to who are the 4 great, or maybe 5 great people who have basically built what we are in today as a technological society. It's Charles Babbage, Turing, Robert Noyce, and Jobs.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe Jack Kirby. Those guys. But really, and I like this. I like the the original drawing too. If you read the article, there's an original drawing by somebody that shows the entire Bletchley Park board. That's really cool.
Yeah, that is kind of cool. Last but not least, we here at AVNation have a slight short announcement. We have ended our exclusive deal with Rave Publications. We wish them well. They're actually starting some podcasts of their own, so go check them out at ravepubs.com. But you can check all of our stuff still at avnation.tv. avnation.tv. Go there now. There's a blog post about this explaining a little bit more. But we just wanted to take a moment and say, wish them well. Had a lot of fun over the last 8 months, but I think it's time to move on. So I just wanted to take a moment and acknowledge them and say, good luck to you guys. So also with us this week is George Tucker. Thank you guys so much for joining us. George Tucker, he is with World Stage. Tell people where they can find you, sir.
You can find me at Tucker's Tuesday. Type that. You can find me on Tucker Tuesday on Twitter, and I blog for several people, including AV Shout and more to come.
Okay. So with this is Dawn Meade. She's from Net-AV, but you can also call her AV Dawn because that's another name that you know her by. Where can people find you, ma'am?
Well, you can find the company and myself at net-av.com. I'm available on Twitter at avdawn. I have my blog at avdawn.com, although it's not really updated. I have to work on that. And, you can find me at Infocom events and NSCA events and all kinds of places being cool and groovy.
Very cool. Also, Matt D. Scott from Omega Audio Video. Where can people find you, sir?
OmegaAudioVideo.com and MattDscott.com, or all over the Twitterverse under those handles as well.
Very cool. And finally, Mr. Chris Tatton from HB Communications. Do you have anything like a Twitter or a Facebook or anything?
I do have a Twitter
that
is seldom used. It is Chris_Tatton.
There you are. My name is Tim Albright. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, I don't really talk much, so T D as in David Albright, ALBRIGHT. But more importantly for me and everybody here at AVNation, go by the website avnation.tv, avnation.tv. That's all the time we have for AV Week.